Forget the horns. Forget the costumes. The real Vikings were faster, cleaner, and smarter than the cliches. Their ships cut through the sea with precision. Their raids were planned, not wild. Their lives were harder and far more disciplined than we imagine. This is the world of the real Vikings.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for a journey back to the ninth century, right into the heart of early medieval Scandinavia. We've got a dense stack of sources, archaeological finds, historical sagas, and our mission is to give you a serious Viking reality check.
It's work that really needs doing. Because the image we all have of a Viking, it's mostly a fantasy, isn't it?
Completely. You say the word Viking and everyone just pictures the same thing. This, bloodthirsty brute, always at sea, always swinging an axe.
And always wearing that helmet.
A horned helmet. We have to talk about the helmet. But yeah, they're just seen as these unmannered, disorganized pirates, only interested in setting things on fire.
Which is the movie version, for sure. But look, if we want to get to the real people, we have to start with the word itself. Viking.
Okay.
It wasn't really a word for a single people or a tribe. They were Scandinavians, yes, but Viking was more of an activity. It described the journey, the voyage.
So it's a verb almost. To go Viking.
You could think of it that way, yeah. It translates pretty bluntly to pirate.
So it's more like a job description.
Exactly.
Right.
Or a seasonal activity. And that one distinction, that changes everything. It completely dismantles the idea that they were just on the warpath 365 days a year.
Right, because you can't exactly go raiding the English coast when the fjords are frozen solid.
Precisely. The sources are clear that during the winter, life at home was, well, relatively peaceful. They were farmers, traders, they were craftsmen, probably carving the very ships they'd use in the summer.
So if you were planning on going on a wiking, as they'd say.
Yes, the ideal window, the recommended time, was between May and August. It was a summer excursion, a very disciplined, prepared, seasonal enterprise.
A highly organized and, I imagine, incredibly terrifying summer job.
That's a good way to put it.
So let's get prepared. If you're signing up for this voyage, what does your survival kit actually look like? And I think we have to start with the biggest myth of all.
Let's just get it out of the way. The helmets.
The horned helmets.
For anyone listening who loves the movie version, I'm sorry, but they are complete fiction.
A total fabrication.
They're an invention. They come from, of all places, 19th century German opera.
Richard Wagner.
Richard Wagner. No 9th century warrior ever wore one. Their actual gear was all about practicality.
Okay, so your essential kit. The outline we have here lists 5 surprising items. Only one of them is what you'd expect.
Right, so the obvious one first. Number 1, weapons.
Of course. Your bow and arrow, a good shield, your sword. That makes sense.
Number 2 is a bit more practical. Seasickness medicine.
Oh. Because these longships, they were out in all weather.
All weather. Treacherous seas. You were completely exposed riding these huge waves. It was not a comfortable trip.
Okay, number 3, headache tablets. This one sounds, well, it sounds very modern. A little soft for a ruthless warrior, maybe?
It does, but we promise you'll understand why later. It's maybe the most revealing detail about their feasting culture. We'll circle back to that.
I'm intrigued. Okay, number 4.
Number 4, a dictionary for Old Icelandic.
A dictionary.
It shows how organized they were. Dialects varied, across Scandinavia, but Old Icelandic was similar enough to the other languages that it kind of worked as a universal translator. It was about efficient communication.
And then there's item number 5. This is the one that really changes the whole picture of the scruffy, dirty Viking.
It really does. It's a hair comb.
A comb, specifically for the men.
And this is where the archaeology, the grave goods, give us that aha moment. The comb tells us that Vikings were actually incredibly meticulous about personal hygiene.
That image of the dirty, unkempt brute is just wrong.
It's totally inaccurate. They weren't just clean. They were arguably more hygienic than a lot of their neighbors in early medieval Europe. We were talking about very image-conscious pirates.
That's amazing.
And it wasn't just a comb. They carried a whole toilet set.
What?
Yeah, a set of items usually on a ring or a chain. It included tweezers, an ear spoon.
An ear spoon.
An ear spoon. And a toothpick. These were people who cared about how they looked, even on a raid.
That is just such a powerful image. The most feared warriors in Europe, stopping to, clean their teeth. It suggests a level of social discipline we just don't associate with them.
It does. But it also speaks to their culture of respect. Because while they valued appearance, respect wasn't earned with pleasantries. It was earned by proving yourself.
Okay, so what were the valued traits?
The sources list 4, basically.
Yeah.
Skill in a fight, sheer physical endurance, a huge drinking capacity, and of course, proven heroism.
So the hygiene existed right alongside this really aggressive social code?
Precisely. They enjoyed spreading fear and terror. It worked, and it built their reputation. The right of the stronger always prevailed, showing up and acting like a warm dusher, a softie.
Literally a worm showerer.
Right. That would get you nothing but scorn. They demanded toughness.
And that toughness was tested from the moment you stepped on the boat. Let's talk about the ship itself, the longship, or dragon ship, the piece of tech that made all this possible.
It really was a technological masterpiece. I mean, arguably the most refined war machine of the Middle Ages. The naval architecture involved was just incredible. They were built for speed, for flexibility, and for a shallow draft.
So what are we talking size-wise? How big is a longship?
Well, it could be huge. Some stretched up to 29 meters long.
So nearly 100 feet.
Nearly 100 feet, yeah. But here's the crucial part of the design. They were incredibly narrow, only about 3 to 5 meters wide.
And that's what gave them that sleek profile and that speed.
Astonishing speed. They could hit up to 38 kilometers per hour. I mean, that's as fast as a small steamship from centuries later.
Wow.
They could launch these lightning-fast raids on a coast and then just vanish before any real defense could be organized.
It sounds amazing on paper, but living on one, that sounds like pure misery.
Oh, it was. You called it nature pure. There were no cabins, no shelter at all. You were just exposed to the wind, the sun, the rain, the freezing sea spray all the time.
And you couldn't even have a fire to keep warm.
No, absolutely not. An open flame on a wooden boat like that. Too much of a risk.
So you're cold, you're wet, and you're packed in like sardines because they loaded those ships to capacity, right?
Completely full.
Yeah.
And rowing was not optional. Every single person on that boat had to be in top physical shape.
And the privacy?
There was none. Your entire life was lived inches from dozens of other men. The sources actually mentioned that the only place on the ship you weren't crowded was the open-air toilet.
Which was just leaning over the railing.
Just leaning over the railing.
What a life. And it was overwhelmingly a man's life, right? What was the accepted norm for gender roles on a wiking?
Well, the social structure was pretty clear. A true Nordman wanted to fight among his equals. So the wisdom was that women should stay home, run the farms, manage the households and the trade, while the men went out to conquer the world.
A very clear division of labor.
Very. It was seen as a man's journey.
Which makes sense. A journey that demanding would require a pretty Spartan diet, I imagine.
Monotonous is the word. You needed food that would last for a long voyage and through a hard winter. So it was all about preservation.
Let me guess. Salted meat?
Heavily salted meat? Yep. Stockfish, which is that dried whitefish. And oat porridge.
Every day.
Every single day. That's what fueled them.
That just sounds exhausting. But, okay, when they got back, or when they were celebrating in a big trading town like Haithabu, that's when the feasts happened.
That's when things got interesting.
So what were they drinking at these legendary parties?
Well, we always hear about mead, the honey wine. But that was a luxury item. It was really only for high holidays or for the very wealthy.
So what was the everyday drink?
Beer. Brewed all the time, usually from barley or oats. And they drank it from these massive horns. Funnily enough, the beer itself was actually lower in alcohol than most of the beer we drink today.
And that brings us back, full circle, to the headache tablets. If the beer was weak, how did they get into that legendary state of Viking revelry?
This is one of the most fascinating discoveries from the research. To get the intensity they wanted for their celebrations and their spiritual journeys, the beer they brewed often contained something a bit stronger than just barley.
Uh-oh.
They mixed in plants like henbane.
Henbane, that's a powerful hallucinogen.
A very powerful hallucinogen. They were deliberately spiking their own drinks. This wasn't just about getting drunk. It was about seeking a chemically induced spiritual experience.
Wow. What for?
They were using it to dream of Valhalla,
The afterlife.
the warrior's paradise,
Yeah.
where famously beer flows in endless streams from the udder of a goat named Hydron. This was their shortcut to heaven. It prepared them for the next battle, or for their own death.
Which would make the headache tablets absolutely essential the next morning.
Absolutely essential.
So this combination of ruthless culture, this organized expansion, and the longship technology, their reach was just staggering.
It was global for the time. They took control of huge parts of England and France. They settled Iceland and Greenland. And, the sources strongly suggest they were the first Europeans to set foot in North America.
Centuries before Columbus.
Centuries. So yes, expansive and ruthless. But what did they do for fun when they weren't conquering or having visions?
Right, what was Viking entertainment?
Well, it wasn't passive. They didn't have, animation. Their pop stars were traveling singers and poets, the skalds,
Ah, the storytellers.
revered figures. They would recite these incredible, complex Norse epics. That was their live show.
And they were obviously very sporty. It ties back to that need for physical endurance.
All highly athletic. They were always testing their strength. They had stone-throwing contests and various kinds of wrestling. There was Rovkrok and also Glimmerbrotning, which was a very technical style of
And
wrestling.
they were consumers. The markets in their trading towns must have been amazing.
A huge highlight. You could find goods and souvenirs from, as they said, all countries, from the Byzantine Empire all the way to Ireland.
Which brings us to this final piece of evidence. The thing that I think makes them feel the most human.
That favorite detail.
It's this amazing scientific discovery. They found these short messages written on little sticks of bark.
You can think of them as Viking SMS messages. The original text message. Short, quick, casual communication.
Not some grand epic saga.
No, just a little note.
And there's one message in particular that they deciphered. It just cuts through 1,000 years of all the violence in mythology. What did it say?
A simple two-word command. Kiss me.
Kiss me.
Kiss me
Yeah.
on a piece of bark. And it's a remarkable finding. You have these figures organized, ruthless, technologically superior pirates who crossed oceans, used hallucinogens to talk to their gods, and terrified half of Europe, and yet they were still just people sending simple, romantic, personal messages.
It makes them feel so close somehow.
Yeah. And when you put all of this together, the hygiene, the ships, the drugs, the poetry, the text messages, that caricature of the brute in the horned helmet just completely shatters.
Yeah, it does.
You're left with this portrait of a disciplined, masterful traveler, someone meticulous about their appearance, who used sophisticated technology to expand across the known world and who integrated these powerful psychoactive plants into their spiritual life to get a glimpse of paradise. They were pirates, yes, but they were also incredibly complex, culturally rich people.
And that complexity is what's so fascinating. Given that we know they carried tweezers and wrote little notes like, kiss me, I mean, what does that tell you about the human experience? That even in one of the most feared and aggressive societies in history, these surprisingly gentle, relatable behaviors were happening right alongside all the massive conquests and the violence. It suggests that even the most terrifying figures from our past were maybe, just maybe, chasing a life that wasn't so different from our own.